Hi, welcome to the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV, Truth Frequency Radio, wherever fine talk shows are sold. As I will remind you, throughout this episode, you can support independent science journalism by buying my book, Official Stories. It's a gift that gives back to you. I'm going to be reading a little bit from it today. I'm going to be talking about, whatever. It's always a free-for-all. I think that we'll end up in outer space. We'll talk about the movie Vaxxed a little bit. Let's see, what else? We'll talk about coffee enemas. It's the intellectual free-for-all, the stream of consciousness that is me, delivered to you, naked and shivering, right at your door. Well, not quite naked and shivering, but let's start with the coffee enema experience. My friend Robert Scott Bell managed to put into my mind the unholy notion that putting coffee into your colon is somehow to be a sought-after experience. Now, before you hang up the line, let me say that I know it sounds crazy. I ridiculed the idea for a long time. It was given to me in, the great terms of pseudoscience. It's good for your liver. It goes down the biliary duct, from the hepatic duct, from the colon to the liver. Oh, maybe it's true. Stimulates the expulsion and excretion, the increase of bile, expulsion and excretion of jammed-in plastics and plasticized molecules that haven't been able to be gotten out on their own. Okay, I say you've made a convincing argument that I can increase and stimulate my liver to produce more of what it produces by caffeinating it more directly than by going through the stomach and bloodstream. Okay, well, it took me a long time, and I mean years, to try it. I think I tried one. You can't really try it, by the way. It's like sex. You're pretty much doing it. Or pizza. You're either eating it or you're not. It's hard to try things. You really are doing them or you're not doing them. You can do them badly. You can do them without great force or effort, but you're still doing it. So I did a coffee enema had a friend. Well, they were friends. I think I might have alienated them a little by talking about marriage and relationships so much, but that's a different story. Oh, we'll talk about that on this episode. She's I thought a nice lady who works with the Gerson Institute, and she boiled the coffee, told me what to do, gave me the bucket. Anyway, I did it, and I held it for as long as I could, and then let it out, and it wasn't very long, so I did another, and I don't know if I felt anything. Much like sex the first time, you don't know what happened. Anyway, I didn't do another one for a year and a half. Then a friend of mine had a stomach issue, and I recommended these coffee enemas. It was actually, a liver issue, and I recommended these coffee enemas. And so, in solidarity, I put the pixie stick full of coffee up my tuchus and have now been doing them somewhat regularly. Well, they leave me a little lightheaded, and then I get very tired, but that's always me after a good poop. Very, very relaxed. No, nothing. You don't realize how much work your colon is doing until it doesn't have to do any work. I'll tell you that. You really don't realize how relaxed you can be until the colon doesn't have to do any work. And as I embarrassingly, or not, said on the Robert Scott Bell Show, I feel I have a roomy colon because I swear more has come out of me. I'm some sort of Newtonian paradox. More can come out of me than I put it out. It's because everything that you eat mixes with the water. But anyway, more is coming out of me than I put in the front end. So I've always felt that I just had a lot of room in there, and if I ever wanted to travel, I could just swallow things. Yes, it's the Liam Scheff Show on Truth Frequency Radio, UCY TV. Only here will you hear about roomy colons as an alternative to suitcases. I suppose on the drug traffickers channel, they probably talk about roomy colons. Hey, he has a roomy colon. Take this cocaine in a plastic bag. Okay. Wasn't there a movie? Like some shit movie. Luc Besson movie, I think, called Lucy, with that terrible bloody actress who's in bloody everything. Scarlett Johansson. Overrated beyond belief. And they put some sort of chemical drug, and she was supposed to she was supposed to carry it in her, and then she got kicked, and of course it was a magic chemical that turned it into, I don't even know. I just fast forwarded through the whole thing until the end she became a supercomputer. I hate most science fiction. It's just fucking retarded, but not in the way that you have to apologize for saying anyway, you know what I'm saying. Okay, back to stream of consciousness, zipping back through the ages of Lucy, and then coffee enema. Here's what happened last time, and I fixed it this time. But last time, it's very important that the toilet seat be in the correct position before you get to the releasing moment. It's very, very important because you may not have the time, the wherewithal that you think. So last time I did it, I got there, and I just thought, I'm not going to get, you don't understand, let me just say, you don't know the pressure. You know when you have to pee really, really, really badly and you know you can't hold it because it's liquid that's pressing? It's not a solid that you can sort of like, it's liquid and it's just going to start to leak. Well, that's what happens with a coffee enema. It's now liquid that's going to start to leak. So last time I thought, well, I'm not going to, and I'm running sort of toward the toilet and I think, long story short, you can clean shower curtains, and that's all you need to know. There's some sort of hydroplaning effect with the, Anyway, no, most of it got into the bowl. That's the important thing, most of it. This time I had everything prepared. It was horrifying. You don't want to have to clean that up. This time I had everything prepared and I managed to get it done. Now, do I feel better after doing coffee enemas? I have no idea. I'm very light right now. I'm lightheaded. My shoulder hurts, but that's from a totally different injury. It's healing. If it is healing, it's healing damn slowly, which makes me think it's a rather deep injury. Let's tell that story. So coffee enemas, plus or minus, thumbs up, thumbs down, remain to be seen. You do feel, though, that when you're doing one, that you're truly taking charge of your body. You're saying, well, I will put the medicine in either end that I choose. I'm not playing by their rules anymore. You kind of had that Groundhog Day feeling. I'm not going to play by their rules anymore, said Bill Murray as he drove the car down the train tracks. I just had the strangest thought that Bill Murray wasn't alive anymore, but he is. It's actually Harold Ramis who directed the film, and many of Bill Murray's great moments in cinema, who passed away to the next place. I think the world of Harold Ramis is just so brilliant and so funny. He's made some of the more darkly funny things, but he also wrote, I think he was involved with Caddyshack and maybe even Meatballs and Stripes. He's involved with these things in one way or the other. Ghostbusters, very, very light, funny things. And Groundhog Day, just one of the great films of all time, one of the great philosophical treatises of all time. That in the end, not in that kind of end, not in the coffee enema kind of end, but in the end, you have to learn to be kind to people. And tolerate all sorts of things, and really just try to be the best version of yourself you can be. And then you get to fuck Andie MacDowell. That's what I took away from the film. Fuck her senseless. Right there in Puxatawny. Did I miss something? Wasn't that the moral? Okay. Tell me you wouldn't have. Andie MacDowell? Very cute. Very beautiful. Really. Great hair. Nice eyes. Cute smile. Come on, she was a supermodel. Tell me she wasn't. I know, slightly annoying southern sort of dopey accent, and the personality seems fun. Little picky, little bit of Virgo maybe. Who knows? But tell me you wouldn't have at the end of Groundhog Day. I would have. We're going to go to outer space on the show. Yes, coffee enemas. We're going to go to outer space. I'm going to read to you a little from Official Stories because I talk about it all the time, but I never read to you from it, just to let you know that it's actually a written book, a well-written book, a well-thought-out book. It's not a stream of consciousness book. It's a well-organized book that zings along and zips you through the major frauds of our time. Big Bang, HIV, vaccination. Let's talk about the movie Vaxxed a little. Andy Wakefield is a mainstream doctor who still holds to many mainstream douchebag views, let's be clear about that, who happened to do the right thing by way of understanding that vaccination, or I should say the MMR vaccine, was causing problems in young people in Britain, and probably anywhere else that it was being given. The movie Vaxxed purports, I think, that the MMR vaccine and its combination is the problem, not vaccination in general. This is almost disturbing because the movie is being panned as being anti-vaccine, and you figure they should have just embraced it. But what always happens with mainstreamers is they just think that if they play the game well enough, they can be let back into the club and maybe even reform the club. And I see that all the time. I see that all the time. I see it. I've seen it in occasionally. You see it in the AIDS group with guys like I might get his name wrong. I think Don Abrams. If that's wrong, I apologize. But is it Levy? I should have prepared these names. Well, it'll come back to me for the second half of the show, and I'll bring all their names up. But there are these AIDS doctors who've understood for years, now generations really, decades, that the drug regimen, that the test, that some aspect of AIDS was really, really bad. But they just clung on, because they didn't want to be Peter Duesberg. They didn't want to be sacrificed on the altar of sex crimeology, fictional sex crimes. Or supposed hatred of gays or whatever that you're accused of when you say that, oh, by the way, these drugs will kill you. Oh, you hate gays. No, actually you do, because you want to kill them with drugs. So I think Don Abrams is one, and I think Levy. Oh, damn it. I'll get it for the second half. But there are these AIDS doctors they'll fudge around and they say, yes, we really we should use caution when using, we should use caution when prescribing these drugs. We should use caution when accusing somebody of being positive because, we should use caution when using these drugs as a first line defense. We should use more and more caution with more needs to be known. Instead of just saying this is a fucking fraud, which is the truth, they come out and they pussyfoot around and they play tiddlywinks with it, and it's just a long, boring game of bullshit because they don't want to be totally out of the club because they're in a good place in the club after all. They earned their stripes by the long game of academic fellatio, memorizing and spitting out, sucking and spitting, that is PhDology, suck and spit, suck and spit, suck and spit, don't think, suck and spit. Crunch numbers, do the experiments that are already predefined. Don't do anything original, or you'll lose your PhD candidacy. You'll be ineligible for the program. Sorry, we kept your money, but we kicked you out. It's happened. It's happened over and over again to people who said, "Excuse me, sir, your experiment doesn't make any fucking sense at all. We don't know what to do with it." You can leave. You can leave. You're not sucking well enough, and if you're not sucking, you certainly can't regurgitate the bullshit that we're feeding you. So. That's academia. And Andy Wakefield is he's a mainstream. And he's right that the MMR vaccine is toxic. And he's right that vaccines cause the gut damage and autism. I don't know if he talks enough about the neurological effects of the vaccines. So he made this movie Vaxxed, as a crusade to right his wronged name and, to do some good and to expose the CDC for covering up the dangers of MMR. Some of that's honorable, some of it's ego, and all of it's pretty true. I mean, you have a right to defend your honor and your ego. There's nothing wrong with that. But the movie doesn't really come out and say vaccines are bad. It doesn't do that. It doesn't say, and the movie doesn't discuss just vaccine ingredients. It just discusses the MMR and the cover-up. Well, if vaccines are bad, if vaccines cause autism, as the movie purports, then it's the fucking ingredients in the vaccines that cause the autism, not just the combination. Well, they don't want to talk about that. Not really. So, they want to go halfway there, hoping that academia can sort of bend over and take one, like, okay, we'll agree that the MMR was slightly in some, a little dangerous. Well, they did that with AZT. Yes, AZT was bad in some doses because it killed a couple 100,000 gay men. But now that we've lowered the dose, it's fine. Let's give him nevirapine instead. Whoops! Skin came off, died. Whoops! All of that's happened. Now, the big joke in Vaxxed, which I still recommend, I recommend it, but the big joke in Vaxxed is that they interview Luc Montagnier, and Luc Montagnier is a huge fucking fraud. Luc Montagnier said that some French guy who was sick, probably from doing poppers and too many drugs, might have had a mystery retrovirus called swollen lymph node associated retrovirus or virus. And they never had any proof of it. It was a terrible experiment. He just said that if you could get antibodies to something that, when he mixed the rabbit blood with it, and he didn't have to purify or isolate anything, it was all crap. Oh, look, we found some nonspecific antibodies to proteins that we already know are in there that don't come, we don't know what they are. Maybe we found a virus. Well, he sent that non-mixture to a guy called Robert Gallo, who said that he had found something by the same method of not finding anything, and that would now be HTLV3, which later was the idea of it was renamed to HIV, but not the thing itself, because they never had a thing itself, and it's all bullshit. Luc Montagnier, by the way, was the more ethical of the two, and he said that we shouldn't be poisoning people with AIDS drugs. He said a lot of things. He's essentially into homeopathy, and he said that given good nutrition, you can recover from being infected with HIV, and your body will get rid of it. Well, he said this. He said it on camera. He said it on camera in House of Numbers. He's gone in his private writing, or public writing, I should say, and in interviews, and said things like, the drugs are too toxic. It's a shame to give people AIDS drugs. It's a very bad thing to do. The body can't tolerate it for a whole lifetime. The Nobel Committee gave him the Academy Award for lying to the public about inventing a disease or whatever, rather than Robert Gallo. Robert Gallo says a lot of crazy things also, but Robert Gallo doesn't believe that, that you can recover if you have good nutrition. Robert Gallo is trying to toe the mainstream line, which is be afraid, be very afraid. So Luc Montagnier is now being interviewed in Vaxxed for reasons that nobody can understand, saying it's surprising that the CDC got... by the way, all of this reporting is coming from my on-the-ground New York correspondent who gave me the information in a private email. So I'm reporting what's being reported by my on-the-ground reporter, and she's very honest and very honorable. And I'm reporting having not seen the movie. I've got to admit that I haven't seen the movie. I got a good report from my on-the-ground reporter, and I trust her. So if I'm wrong, or she misspoke or something like that, I'll just apologize. But this is what I have from her. That what Montagnier says in the movie is this: it's surprising that the CDC got this MMR thing wrong because they did HIV so well. Fuck off. And really, one giant fuck you to Andy Wakefield for that. Really, just one giant fuck you. Among all the thank yous and all the heaps of applause and all that kind of stuff, for being brave, for taking the hits. Come on, grow up. Grow up. Really, do you think that's going to hold? We have Luc Montagnier saying that the body can get rid of HIV, that the test shouldn't be, that the drugs are too toxic for people. You really think that he thinks the CDC did HIV well? Really? Grow up. I get so tired of people trying to protect their own asses. It's very boring. And I guess Andy wants to be, acknowledged as a good doctor, and he is a good gastroenterologist because he noted that vaccines were killing people's guts, and he deserves respect for that. But come on, dude. And Del Bigtree, come on. Do a little bit more digging. I know you got the weight of the world on your shoulders with this. I know you stepped out from behind the gun of the doctors, but come on. Don't give AIDS a blowjob while you're beating up lightly on vaccines. Have the courage of your convictions. It's all corrupt. It's all corrupt. You're not gonna weasel out of it by kicking people who question AIDS in the butt. You're not gonna score higher on your vaccine rating. The people who hate you for smudging vaccines already hate you. You're not going to get any further by covering somebody else's ass. Come on, grow up. Find the weak points in all of their lies and join hands with the other people finding weak points in their lies, and then you'll be stronger. That's all. Due respect, much love, but grow up. Still, support the movie. I can't wait to see it. Truly, can't wait to see it. Brian Hooker, incredibly honorable and honest guy, doctor who really is the linchpin in the breaking of the CDC thing, by the way. I really like Brian. I think he's honest and honorable. So there you have that. The rest of it, come on, guys. Come on. Don't give Luc Montagnier a pass. It's going to blow back in your face. It already is, because I'm saying it, and Luc Montagnier is all over film saying the opposite of what you said. And if the CDC did AIDS right, then it's surprising they didn't do vaccines right. Okay, that's off my chest. Yeah. Anyway, vaccines are poisonous. I've made some videos about that. Not hard to figure out. Not going to talk about that. They're poisonous. Anybody who can't figure that out is lazy because they haven't gone and just done the Google search. Are vaccines poisonous? Yes, they are. You'll find the medical literature saying over and over again, all the ingredients in vaccines are poisonous, which makes vaccines poisonous. Yes, you win the stuffed bear. You can leave the park now. Disneyland is closed. Let's read a little bit about outer space. We're going to jump into Official Stories by Liam Scheff, or Liam Scheff. I'm going to read a few pages from Official Stories, Chapter 9. I have a big announcement coming soon. I am going to reveal something to you. It is the reason why you should feel free to distrust every NOAA, NASA, IPCC. That's just all the douchebags who do the CO2 global warming thing. All of their climate models, feel free to disregard them after my big video announcement coming in about 2 weeks. I need a little bit of time to pull the material together so I can get it done in 10 minutes. So it's going to be an ongoing investigation that you are free to join in, absolutely free to join in. I accept all comers coming with good information. It's the challenge. It's the challenge to the CO2 camp. It's the challenge to the NASA project in every way. It is so self-evident that once I explain it to you, you will hit yourself on the head with your palm, or a fish, or whatever you have near you, an owl, spotted owl, Woodsy the owl, Fukushima fish, anything. You will hit yourself in the forehead and say, oh my God, why do we trust them at all? Why do we trust them at all? If they can't get that right, how the bloody fucking bleepy shit do we trust them with anything at all? You'll realize that the entire science establishment is broken from the top down. It is a great revelation. You will take it with you. You'll be able to share it with people. They will understand exactly what you mean. You're not going to have to argue for 20 hours about whether Building 7 could have fallen because a sparrow hit a window at just the right time of day. You're not going to have to deal with Judy Wood's a-holes telling you that a free energy laser beam melted the entire World Trade Center but made it look like bombs were sequentially going off. Give me a break, grow up. You're not going to have to argue with flat earthers telling you that because they're research illiterate that we should believe nothing that we see with our own eyes, I suppose. That we shouldn't believe anything we see through telescopes or even our own eyes with the moon and the planets. That we shouldn't believe thousands and thousands and thousands of years of historical tracking of the planets through the sky. No, we should believe that we live on a big cake floating through the sky and nothing is real at all. Instead of looking a little bit deeper at the problem, realizing it's an electric universe and we can actually make predictions about what's in outer space. No, you're not going to have to go through that with what I tell you. It's going to be very clear, very straightforward. You're going to be able to understand it. It's all based in well understood principles that are well accepted by the major sciences, all of them, of Newtonian and electromagnetic dynamics and engineering. It's very cool, very exciting, and I think that everybody's going to love it. Again, you're going to be able to take the short video and then take the idea and just when people tell you global warming, CO2, global warming is real, all you're going to have to say is one or two words. And I'm not going to tell you what it is right now. I'm telling you I'm going to announce this in a couple weeks. I've got to pull the video together. It's not just going to be one of the things that I pull together in a couple minutes off the top of my head. I have to write it out. I have to prepare it. I have to make sure that I'm providing you the links and the evidence so that we can begin an investigation together for all time, as long as the internet lasts, another 2 years, I suspect. And then after that, we can proceed on our own way, walking through the world knowing, well, that the mysteries of the universe are electrical, indeed, not just Newtonian, and that the Earth is not an isolated body in space moving around on its own. So let's read a little bit from Official Stories. Let's see what time it is. It is 24 minutes, 25 minutes on the clock. We're going to hit the Truth Frequency radio break. I will go through it. So you guys listening on Truth Frequency Radio, I'm going to blur through the break and I'll come back at the hour. I'm going to continue to read through the bottom of the hour, and then I will come back, announce the break, and I will probably continue to read and then discuss. 25 minutes. Let's see, I can read for 5 minutes. All right. She's so heavy, reading from Chapter 9 of Official Stories. Blaming the Big Bang for the universe puts astronomers in the difficult position of trying to model what they see in space as though it had all exploded out of a dot. This is not how galaxies look or act, so most astronomers are being driven insane by data that does not fit their models. We should probably feel sorry for them, except for the fact that they're spending our tax money to do their bad science. Imagine their task. You want to be an astronomer. You love the sky. It makes your heart sing. You get to school and encounter this monolith, this whopper, the Big Bang. Your professor says, you want to be an astronomer? Make this work. It's like trying to prove that all the water in all the seas in the world drip through the bottom of a Dixie cup in less than 1 second. In fact, it's infinitely worse. It's like arguing that the entire universe dripped through the bottom of a Dixie cup in less than 1 second. This is not what the visible evidence shows. The official storytellers know with their telescopes and eyes, and I think with their hearts, that this is a stupefyingly idiotic way to do science. But if it's not their eyes and hearts, then it's some part of their ego that's getting in the way. Because they're clinging onto it for dear, mortgage, pension, reputation, vaingloriousness, lack of self-worth, I don't know, whatever drives men like theoretical physicist Lawrence Krauss of the Arizona State University to keep peddling this stuff. You can look him up. He thinks life is a bit of pollution, an accident in the cosmos, and because Lawrence has tenure, we're stuck with Georges Lemaitre's cosmic egg. In Father George's model, there is only one force operating, or really two. First, the inexplicable bang, the explosion or expansion and re-expansion that started it all. They've had to add expansions over time to deal with observed reality not conforming to their fable. The second force in the official story, the one responsible for holding the entire galaxies together, forming stars and keeping us on the basketball court, is gravity. We take it for granted because it is granted by the planet we live on. Isaac Newton defined it, but did not offer a source of its power. And though it is what makes our lives on the thin surface of our planet possible, we break it all the time, and with ease, because it is an especially weak force. Not that we think of it that way, but it is. You defy it just by standing up. Paper airplanes soar effortlessly on the slightest winds. The entire gravity of the planet cannot hold them to the surface, given even a little breeze. Mainstream astronomers agree gravity is a weak force and cannot explain the formation of galaxies, stars, or the universe. Gravity falls off quickly at the distance squared. 4 times the distance is 1/16th the strength. 8 times is 1/64th. 60 times the distance is only 1/256th of the original attraction. That's not enough to hold stars light years away to a galactic center. But stars and galaxies do just that. They move in perfect sync, like spokes on a bicycle wheel. This gives galaxies their distinctive pinwheel shape. So what's holding them in place? We'll come to that soon. Checking the clock, this is the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV. We're in the break on Truth Frequency Radio. We're going to continue reading when we get back. Pause for a minute to tell you that you can get official stories on Kindle and paperback on Amazon.com and CreateSpace. I'm working on the sequel, American Heretic. It's changed before me 20 times in terms of what I was going to write, but now I'm there. I understand what I'm writing about. I'm writing about the failure of science and journalism to report anything meaningful to the public. I'm going to be telling stories from my experiences in life and journalism, and I'm going to be presenting to you the great failures of our long moment. The greatest failures of all being those of, the sciences, especially astronomy, to tell us what we see in weather and climate, and now in giving us these totally fraudulent models of climate change, of Big Bang astronomy, of dark matter, of black holes, but that filters down. It filters down into the microscopic layer of the sciences as well, because if the entire body galactic is electrical, if the entire galaxy is electrical, if the solar system is electrical and electromagnetic, then why don't we regard our bodies as electromagnetic? Why don't we have more regard for the electromagnetic processes of our bodies, or the possibility of doing healing with infrared and a variety of other wavelengths of light? Well, some people are getting to it, but it's considered woo science by everybody who wants to cut you open and burn you, as though cauterizing you were the best way to do scientific research. You're listening to the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV. We'll be right back after this very tiny, short musical half interlude. Hello and welcome back to the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV, Truth Frequency Radio. Wherever the internet is streaming, I'll be there. I just been typing in the Andy Wakefield case, and I want to acknowledge that he has taken a beating. So he has been abused and abused and abused. I'm familiar with it. He has said a number of things that are sometimes contradictory. He said that other people mischaracterized his work, and he wasn't really anti-vaccine. He's anti-MMR, 3 vaccines at once, and so on and so forth. So it's not like he was born correct or born with all the courage in the world. He's probably slowly revealed to himself what his training could tolerate. He's a medical doctor, and so there's only so much cognitive dissonance that he can handle in any particular moment. And I haven't seen the film, but my source, a very trusted source in New York, saw the film at the screening and interacted with some of the people, and did report that the AIDS game got a pass, and that the film doesn't really go into what's in a vaccine. So there's no discussion of what's in a vaccine. It's about the CDC cover-up of the MMR problem. Okay, all right. Everybody believes that you can win Everybody believes that you can win by playing the game. So they're going to play the political game that's been set out for them. Somebody else created the crisis. Andy Wakefield did his reporting. However good or bad you think it was, it holds up because it's what happens to people who are injected with poison. They get diseases that are in line with what happens when you inject people with these kinds of poisons. It's not very complicated. And he said so, and he didn't say vaccines cause autism. He said that this triple vaccine problem, especially I think with the measles thing, is really problematic. Then you see follow-up studies, follow-up reports saying, yeah, well, this vindicates what he said, and he's not a fraud. Let me steer you to, and we'll get right back to reading official stories, I promise. We'll steer you to a Mercola article. And by the way, I don't care what psychopaths say. So the psychopathic medical establishment, fuck you, go kill yourselves, don't care anything about you, don't care about your peer-reviewed, hateful bullshit, which lets you poison people and kill people, and then tell me that the morbidity and mortality is low compared to what you thought it would be in the people that you didn't kill. Just fuck off. Don't need you. See how you work. I understand how you work. You mainstream Nazi crazies, and that's the Brian Deers of the world, and the Lancets, the BMJs, who killed hundreds of thousands of gay men by dropping AZT bombs into them and telling them it was great for them, and the gay community itself, which gets behind this eugenics thing by taking PrEP. Grow up, go away, whatever. Don't care. I'm not here for your opinion or your approval. Fuck off. And by go kill yourself, I mean go kill your egos. Of course, you don't have to go kill yourself. Go kill your egos that tell you that you're not allowed to listen to the pained cries for compassion of the people on the other side. I'm looking at these articles about Wakefield, and they're, fraud. Now, where's the fraud? Oh, he took samples at a birthday party. What? No, come on. Either the stuff in vaccines is good for you or it's bad for you. There's very little Mr. In-Between out there in the medical world. It's either good for you or it's bad for you. So, squalene, aluminum, tiered biological organisms injected into your bodies, either good for you or bad for you. That's all. It's not a belief system. It's not a church, or is it? So, who cares what they say? But here, this is the game that Wakefield has or wants to play, because, he just wants to win. He wants to get his, he's a doctor. He has an ego. He wants to get his reputation back. He's paid a lot of money for that degree. His intentions may be good, even his methods may be good, but he's a doctor. These guys have egos. So he's not going to turn over and say, you know what, fuck it, you're right. I'm going to become a naturopath because I don't want to hurt people. I've known people in the medical establishment who found out something terrible and left. Even if they were attacked, they left and they did something else. But you got to have an ego to fight for your claims. Or he's fighting because he thinks children are being hurt, in which case we have to thank him, right? So back to the beginning of the conversation, grow up and don't pretend that AIDS isn't the same or chemotherapy isn't the same. I get very tired of these fake splits down the line. we're either going to accept that all Western medicine is deeply corrupted, and the only useful part of it is emergency medicine, which can stitch some part back of you that's been hacked off, or stop you from choking to death. I mean, there are places for Western medicine, it's in the emergency room, but everything else that we do seems to be a mistake, a huge mistake. Now, if you've been saved, if you feel you've been saved by a surgery, trust me, I get that, I appreciate that, I'm not going to stop. I suppose we could do reasonable surgeries, but we do a lot of unreasonable surgeries, don't we? Kill a lot of people with surgeries, staph infections, wrong surgeries, wrongful deaths. Happens all the time. And then the drug biz, the drug trade. Well, that's the really disastrous part. Fluoride, mercury. I mean, it's just everywhere. We got poison coming in and going into every orifice. Back to the coffee enema. The whole thing ties together. We've come full circle. It's the Ouroboros, snake eating its... Well, let's just read this. And he has to call himself Dr. Mercola rather than Fred or Steve or Mike, whatever his name is. That's the bitchy thing about doctors. Fuck you and your titles. Really, go fuck you and your titles. You're either people or you're not. Fuck you and your titles. All of you. The good ones, the bad ones. Fuck you and your titles. Back to the article by Fred Mercola or whatever his name is. In February, and I'm not saying he doesn't do good things, but fuck you and your titles. Your name isn't Doctor, you fucking bitches. Your name isn't Doctor. It's just Fred or John or Andre, whatever. Everybody in their titles. Everybody wants that little piece of academic cock right down their throats. And we have to go, hey, look, you gargled academic cock. Congratulations, I'll call you Cockter. So tired of it. In February 1998, Lance published Andrew Wakefield's case series of a group of autistic children with gastric problems, which has become one of the most controversial studies in medicine, partly because the patient's story included regression after receiving the MMR vaccine. The debate is a heated one, blah, blah, blah. In a study, backlash, to put it mildly, Dr. Wake, Andy's reputation was completely smeared, just like what happened to me during the mislaunch of the coffee enema. The latest revelations in this controversy add another twist, suggesting that the series of articles published in the BMJ in 2011 alleging that Wakefield, I'm so tired of this, falsify, who cares? New investigation defends Wakefield's Lancet study. Research by microbiologist David Lewis of the blah, blah, blah. He reviewed the histopathological grading sheets. He's of the National Whistleblower Center. Thank you. Where were you when I needed you? Cunty bitches. Great. Just kidding, sort of. Okay. It concluded there was no fraud committed by Dr. Wakefield. As a research microbiologist involved with the collection of examination of colonic biopsy samples, poop! I do not believe that Dr. Wakefield intentionally misrepresented the grading sheets as evidence of non-specific colitis. Dilhan is one of the researchers, they only use last names because psychopaths don't like their first names, indicated non-specific in a box associated. And you have to go by your last name if you're a medical psychopath or a scientist. We have to call you by your last name. New York can't call you by your first name because that would make you human. You have to be bigger and weirder than us, Can't just call you like, maybe his name's Matt Dilhan. Dylan, D-H-I-L-L-N. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place because my hatred and my revulsion for reading medical bullshit and their jargon and their back and forth and their backbiting, it reminds me of childhood Thanksgiving. This is it. Welcome to my childhood. This is it. No, this is it right here. This is it. This is a bunch of fucking jackass researchers sitting around telling each other why they're wrong and then mildly defending each other because they're hoping for a little pat on the butt the next go-around. You know what? Fuck it. I'm not reading any more of this. Vaccines are bad for you. Fuck that. I'm going back to reading my book. Vaccines are bad for you. Go look up the ingredients in vaccines. I'm not getting involved in the bullshit fake details. Vaccines are bad for you because of the ingredients in vaccines. That's why they're bad. That's it. That's the end of it. You don't have to go write a goddamn dissertation on it. It's not that bloody frickin' complicated. It's not that complicated. It's the ingredients, stupid. It's not the combination of vaccines. It's the ingredients in any one vaccine. I don't need to see the movie Vaxxed to know that. I'm sorry if you do. Or congratulations, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope that you support the anti-vaccine movement because the anti-vaccine movement is actually the pro-let's not kill children, let's not murder children movement. And I don't need to hear any more back and forth from people who don't have first names. Fuck them and the fucking horses they rode in on. Back to my book. My name's Liam. Liam Scheff. Call me Chef. You can call me Dr. Chef. You can call me Senator Chef. You can call me Fred if you like. Yeah, okay, fine. I kind of had a little blowout there. I didn't mean to. I blame the coffee enema. I'm fine. Fucking doctors. Know-it-all sons of bitches. Honestly. Honestly. Help some people. Leave your egos at the door and help some people. Every one of you on every side. Leave your egos at the door and help some people. You know why they all have PTSD? Because they fucking cannibalize each other. All of them, even the good ones, cannibalize each other. They can't stop beating up on each other. They are psychopaths. SCI-copathic. They are all psychopaths. None of them are free of it because they all have to go through medical school where they are cannibalized. They have 8 years, they have 4 years of medical school and they have residency and they get cannibalized. They have to study for their boards. If they don't pass them, they have to do them again. Cannibalization. It's all sucking and spitting. They don't know. They don't know how to help people. They don't know how to do patient care. They have to learn how to properly prescribe. Watch that show Scrubs. I don't remember the actor's name. He's a good actor. He's a good actor, and he's been in a lot of Oliver Stone movies, and I can't for the life. I don't even know if I ever knew his name, but he's the head doctor there, and he is a cunt. He is the prizest cunt of the cuntiest cunts who ever graduated from Little Lord Fauntleroy School for fucking cunts. He is the cuntiest whore bastard that you've ever seen. Anyway, he's the chief doctor on Scrubs, and that's it. That's it. That's not a joke. Goes around, calls people newbie, beats them up emotionally, psychologically, tell them they're worth nothing, and then they make a correct finger quotes in the air diagnosis, finger quotes in the air based on the whatever manual they're using of psychopathy. God forbid anybody should come along with vitamin C in their system because they'll try to expunge it by forceful leaching. Oh yeah, hospitals and doctors, they're good at emergency medicine. I'll give them that, and I thank them. I do. I thank the EMT workers. I thank the ambulance workers. I thank the people who are saying, look, you're bleeding to death. We're going to give you a momentary patch and a drug to stop it. We're going to do this. We're going to cauterize this. Momentarily, we're going to stop you from immediately dying so that you can handle the problem in the long run. But the guys who are there to handle the problems in the long run are the priests. It's all a priest class, just like Georges Lemaitre. Georges Lemaitre, who invented Big Bang non-theory, was a priest. A priest. I'm not exaggerating kind of priest. I'm not saying he was a priest and I really mean he was a saint. I mean he was a priest and he invented Big Bang Theory. Back to Official Stories by Liam Scheff. Page 141. In Father Georges' model, you thought I wouldn't get back to it. You were wrong. There was only one force operating, and fuck MDs. Honestly, fuck them. Or really two. Except when they're truly helping people, which is once in a while. The inexplicable bang, the explosion or expansion and re-expansion that started it all. They had to add expansions over time to deal with observed reality not conforming to their fable. The second force in the official story, the one responsible for holding entire galaxies together, forming stars and keeping us on the basketball court, is gravity. I told you, this book is written. It's not just stream of consciousness, unlike that angry hate screed thing I was just doing about psychopaths running the world. We take it for granted because it is granted by the planet we live on. Isaac Newton defined it but did not offer a source of its power. And though it is what makes our lives on the thin surface of our planet possible, we break it all the time with ease because it is an especially weak force. All right, let's jump ahead. I read that before. The real reason we're stuck with gravity is because, like Georges Lemaitre, current astronomers think it's still the 1600s. That is where their current scientific models come from, because that is when Isaac Newton lived. And what's wrong with that, you ask? He was a genius, after all. And so he was, but he lived in a world without the one thing that he needed to understand how the universe is powered. What didn't Newton have at his bedside? Oh, I should have called him Isaac. Broke my own rule. When he wanted to... Damn it, Chef, damn it! When he wanted to work late, he had to light a candle, because he didn't have electricity. It is electricity which carries the electromagnetic, or EM, force, which is something that Newton did not, really could not, know about. He certainly could not work with it experimentally, which is why being stuck in 1687 is bad for astronomy. But what makes the EM force so special? The answer: strength, reach, flexibility, variety of expression, and life-giving properties. The EM force is stronger than gravity by a factor so great you'll think I'm pulling your leg. It is 1,000 trillion times stronger. That's 10 with 39 zeros. Imagine what the EM force can do that gravity can't. It can pull in material from far away and squeeze it so tightly that you could make a planet out of dust. Now, a note on that, the mainstream will say that the actual real-life force of the electromagnetic force is weakened significantly, but they have trouble explaining the power of the electromagnetic force in the real world. So their model is on paper, and the real world laughs at their paper. We'll get to that on perhaps the next show or the show after that. We'll come back to it because I'll be working with this a lot. While gravity is only a weakly attractive force, the electromagnetic force acts like a power line. It courses, I sounded like Christopher Walken there, acts like a power line. It courses, pulses, spirals, spins, scavenges, heats, rolls, pinches. Oh, I sound like Christopher Walken there. And forms a variety of layered cellular structures in space. Not only does it attract from a distance without falling off so quickly, oh, I sound like, never mind, as gravity, it also holds currents, not little raisins, currents separate at near proximity. One more time. It attracts and repels. It shapes and preserves the integrity of the spinning cords and sheets that it creates. That's what space is filled with, the electromagnetic force. You see it in quasars, pulsars, and stars, and in the hourglass and butterfly shapes of nebulae. It forms the wrinkled silk of the aurora borealis and the fractal branches of lightning. But NASA does not care, because they've made their bed with gravity and are stuck with it for reasons we'll get into. They know it's too weak to do the job, so to keep galaxies together, scientists have invented space monsters, things that do not exist, are invisible, and cannot be observed, like black holes and dark matter, to explain the profound energetic circuits of the universe. But I've gotten ahead of myself and probably everyone else. Let's go back to the start of the problem, wherein we find the solution. This is Liam Scheff, cursing at the medical establishment and reading from my book, Scheff's Official Stories, or just Official Stories by Hamburger Schiefenator, Liam, or as the AIDS crazies call it, Liar Skeef.
Liam is lying about HIV tests. They're really good, except don't use them. This study says that they work a lot.
Yeah, okay. Study on who? Gay men and black men? Okay, good. Do they work all the time? No? Okay, thanks. I stand uncorrected. Sir Isaac, continuing to read from Official Stories. Isaac Newton was, yes, talking to yourself is one of the benefits of being a Gemini. Isaac Newton was born in the mid-17th century. He was an alchemist. Also many planets in Taurus, don't get the wrong idea. Very rooted, very grounded. He was an alchemist, a spiritualist, a deist. He believed in the unseen and invisible power of a mind at work in all things. Yes, that's not Christianity. No, it's not. He was not a reductionist, and unlike René Descartes or Louis Pasteur, who we met in Chapter 5 on vaccines, he did not take dogs apart to find the woof. It was the age of rejecting church dogma, ghosts, spirits, and all things that could not be seen or measured. So when Isaac said to his peers, I've discovered that there is a force, like an invisible rope that holds the moon to the earth and the earth to the sun, and I call it gravity, they said, Isaac, you're crazy. There's no invisible rope holding the moon to the earth and the earth to the sun. You loon. And they mocked him at science blogs. They lampooned him truly, and drew cartoons, truly they did, of his foolishness. I'm not joking. You can look up the mocking cartoons about Isaac Newton. They are the science blogs of the day. So Isaac, I know that interested some people. Again, you can look up the mocking cartoons in the papers and pamphlets of the day, mocking Isaac Newton for his idea of gravity. So Isaac invented the calculus, along with Leibniz, which shows you that ideas do flow through the ether, and demonstrated to all that he could perfectly predict the path, that's nice, perfectly predict the path of the moon around the earth around the sun, and the planets through the sky. His colleagues and peers said, Isaac, you're a genius. Of course there's an invisible rope that holds the moon to the earth and the earth to the sun. It's called gravity. Hip hip hurrah. Call that post hoc bias. What do you want to call that? 2020 hindsight? What a bunch of fucking cunts. Sorry. I know. I was off the cunt train for a second. Now I'm back on. I apologize. Isaac told them in some, Dear Liam, I enjoy your show sometimes, but you say the word, oh, I can't say it. You say it so often. Just stop. Isaac told them in some, I don't know what makes the planets do this. I don't know the source of gravity. I give that to the greater mind that makes all things, but no one listened. They were too busy worshipping their new god, Isaac Newton, because they thought that gravity was all that they would ever need. Oh no, sorry. Gravity was their new god. Isaac Newton was only their pope and their priest. The one they invoked when they fucked everything up afterward. And that's it. That's how it happened. We've been stuck there ever since because scientists are priests, and when one of them performs a miracle, they spend the next 500 years talking about it, which leads us to the daydreams of Immanuel Kant. No, Kant. No, Kant. No. God damn it. In the 1700s, the grumpy professor from Königsberg, Prussia, Immanuel Kant, famous for his right-as-clockwork walks about the town, began a Gedankenexperiment, thought experiment, later to be joined by Albert Einstein, famous thought experiment douchebag, about astronomy. Oh, we'll get into Einstein, don't worry. If gravity... Oh, please, don't defend him without understanding. If gravity is the force that makes all... I'm not saying he wasn't colorful, or it was funny to watch him stick out his tongue. I'm saying he was wrong, and we'll get into that soon. If gravity is the force that makes all things in the heavens, as we have learned from the great Isaac, he said to himself, ignoring what Isaac said about not being God, then how, using gravity alone, can I imagine the creation of a solar system? And he imagined a great gassy cloud, slowly being pulled together into a clump, which, in the forge of his mind, separated one large hot clump in the center, into one large hot clump in the center, and then many much smaller clumpettes swimming around it, rotating, for some reason, in elliptical circles. This was his model of the creation of the solar system. He did not ask, why would gravity, a weak, attractive force, cause all of the dust to spin in a circle? Why would gravity separate clumps from other clumps into distinct and different bodies? Why would some of the clumps burst into flames? I've got a pile of socks under my bed, and they've never formed into a star. No, he didn't ask. Neither did anyone else, apparently, because the 18th century thought experiment of Immanuel Kant, the nebular hypothesis of galaxies, is NASA's going model. That's right, your tax dollars are going to aid NASA in testing Professor Kant's. No, Kant. Daydream. The good news is, as models go, it is a total and complete failure. It fails every simulation, every test, every computer modeling, every observation through a telescope. Did I say that was good news? I meant this isn't science, it's a call to cult worshipping an old discovery, so what's new? This is Liam Scheff reading from his Kantian... No! His Kant-filled book. I can't. I feel like singing How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria for some reason. How do you catch a cloud and pin it down? A will-o'-the-wisp, a cloud. Anyway, we'll go back to reading some of that in the next hour. The point is that science doesn't come from peer review. Science comes from history. We get our science from old Kants in the past. Thank you, I rescued myself. Of old wizened Kants taking their clockwork walks around Königsberg, believing that what they imagine is actually true. Not testing it, unable to test it, and when tests don't validate it, we're stuck with it because they're a bunch of old Kants. That is science, that is NASA, that is vaccination. We're stuck with vaccination because Louis Pasteur thought that taking the spinal cord out of one animal and injecting it into the brain of the other was a good idea. That's Adordius White I have ahead. I don't even think the Marx Brothers would have done anything like that. Sorry if that was too much of a throwback, but science isn't science. I think that's the point I might want to make in the story that I want to tell you. Science is religion that does a little math and then teaches a bunch of Kants in PhD Academy to suck and spit and suck and spit and suck and spit until they spit just right onto the paper and pay their $400,000 or whatever it costs them to get their meaningless PhD MD. Well, of course, an MD is quite meaningful because you get to kill people. It's really a license to kill now that I think about it. Hello, I'm Bond, James Bond. I'm a doctor. I have a license to kill. Oh, it is not funny. Doctors actually have a license to kill. All they have to do is prescribe. All they have to do is say, well, we meant to cut, Moneypenny, I meant to cut off your other leg. I misread the report. Here, come back, I'll cut off both. It's happened. It's happened. It's modern medicine. It's a little bit medieval. A lot of leeches and a few leeches and a lot of petrochemicals. It's all the same old song and dance. Again, my due thanks, regard, and respect to the absolutely crazy and heaven-sent people very often who man the ambulances, who help people get over severe emergencies which would cause them a loss of life or limb, would it not be for the immediate suturing up of a wound. That's called emergency medicine or battlefield medicine, and sometimes it's necessary. But after the battle is over, you have to get into the long bit of fixing, of rehab, of supporting a system against toxic onslaught. And we don't do that, and we don't teach it. Why? Because of Immanuel Kant and the rest of the Kants who follow him, sucking and spitting all the way through PhD Academy until they get their magic Cracker Jack box reward from the bottom of the box after sucking and spitting for 4 long years, and 5, 6, 7. I've even known people doing PhD dissertations for 7 fucking years. 7 years of a PhD dissertation, never quite able to finish. I was watching a movie called The Other Guys with Marky Mark, who blinded a guy when he was a kid. I don't like Marky Mark. Don't like him at all. With Will Ferrell, who I do like. And there's a really funny line in it by Michael Keaton. And Michael Keaton's the head cop, whatever you call it, sergeant or captain of the precinct. And he says to Will Ferrell's cop and Marky Mark's cop, he says, you guys just take it easy. I'm exhausted. I work 2 jobs. I have another job at Bed Bath & Beyond so I can support my son. He's at NYU exploring his bisexuality so he can become a DJ. Good line. Ain't it the truth? Shout out NYU, bunch of fucking posers. This is the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV, Truth Frequency Radio. Please enjoy the very, very tiny musical interruption while I take a drink of water. Wow. Well, what did we learn in that first hour? First, that Immanuel Kant was one. Second, that I have very little regard for advanced degrees. I think you learn less. The further you go on in a structured, rigorous, memorizing-prone academic program, the less you can generalize, the less you can think, the less you can look about and bring in disparate information to form a larger concept of the world. The more microscopic your view gets, and the more is obscured from your vision. In other words, the more of a fucking cunt you become. You make that one of my syllogisms. The longer you're in a PhD program, the more of a fucking cunt you become. I think that it's almost true all the time. The exception probably proves the rule for that one. We've learned that I curse a lot. I do. We've learned that this is a stream of consciousness show in which I'm willing to interrupt 3 thoughts to put in 1 and then come back to the remaining 2 and slowly address them, or not so slowly. We've learned that you can get more of this in a much less elliptical manner, in a much more organized manner, in official stories in which I don't call anybody a cunt and I don't accuse anybody of sucking and spitting, but I do make pleasant jokes in a slightly ribald English manner, which is sometimes my writing style. We've learned that not all of my coffee enemas have been successful. We've learned that I've gotten better over time. We learn to keep the seat down or up or whatever your preference is, anyway, in ready position before you begin the process. We've learned that I crack myself up, and sometimes you, maybe. We've learned that I think owls are to be hit in the face, or to hit people in the face with. What else have we learned? We've learned that my respect for Andy Wakefield is very, very mixed, very high for the abuse that he's taken, very high for standing up for mothers whose children have been destroyed by the MMR, and very low for not just coming out and saying all vaccines are poisonous. Why? Because he's an MD, and we know what I think of MDs. We learned that I think very highly of emergency workers, and you don't have to be an MD to be an emergency worker. In fact, I bet the best medicine that's ever been done has not been done by doctors, but by nurses and EMTs. I bet it has. The most life-saving stuff has been done by people who do not have medical degrees. I'm absolutely sure that's true. In the next hour, we will do whatever the fuck I want to, and I hope that you'll stay tuned. Peace out. Lots of love. See you in a minute. Remember Fish Stories on Amazon. Put a couple dollars into the kitty at PayPal. Keep this dog and pony show filling the seats. I'm sorry I didn't have a better way to end that. See you soon. I mean really soon, like in a couple of seconds. Hi, welcome back to the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV, Truth Frequency Radio. I guess I'll just start with an apology if I offended you for, I understand. I know Andy Wakefield suffered mightily and will continue to suffer mightily for his sin of saying that MMR vaccines were possibly problematic and perhaps tied to gut issues. I think he's come a long way since even the first report. I think he's done really important work. It just, I'm just bugged. I'm bugged, and maybe it's Del Bigtree's fault, or maybe it's Andy's fault. I don't know. Well, it's his. It's Andy Wakefield's movie, and I'm mad to some small degree, and it doesn't take away from the good things that is their movie. And now I have it from two texts and I haven't seen it myself, so I'm going to apologize if I'm wrong. I will. But that Luc Montagnier, who got a Nobel Prize for being the guy who wasn't the biggest liar of two liars, one being Robert Gallo, the other being Luke, Lucky Luke, for not discovering a not virus that doesn't cause not AIDS or whatever the award was for not being as big a fraud and a liar as Robert Gallo, is there in the movie. And according to two texts now, he's saying, it's surprising the CDC did such a good job with AIDS. Well, I don't know. A few 100,000 gay men died because the CDC did such a good job with AIDS. So that's just not too small a point for them to have corrected. Or even to say, well, what do you mean it did a good job? I mean, talk about investigative journalism. Well, sorry, just to repeat that good job thing with AIDS thing again, because, the CDC actually removed AIDS from a significant communicable disease in 2008, and that was only released through WikiLeaks. I mean, they said, yeah, it's a big deal, but don't worry about it. Really? No, really. Look it up. You want me to look that up? I can do that. Let me see if I have that. Oh, you can wait. What are you doing? I can get it for you. This is the stream of consciousness kind of thing. All right, hold on. CDC, February 3rd, 2011. Sanity Inc. How the CDC. No, that's not it. That's a good one though. Doctor speaking. Here it is. Got it. This is the CDC's Federal Register Department of Health and Human Services, released through WikiLeaks. Medical exams of aliens. No, take it easy, flat earthers. You know what I mean. People from Ireland and other places. Take it easy, Irish people. Removal of HIV infection from definition of communicable diseases of public health significance. One more time, removal of HIV from definition of communicable, that's transmittable diseases of public health significance. In other words, this is not a public health significance. And this is 2009. Unless I'm reading their docket number wrong. No, November 2009. Within the U.S. Departments of Health and Human Services, amending its regulations to remove HIV infection from the definition of communicable diseases of public health significance and remove references to HIV from the scope of examinations for aliens. No, not that kind. People from Germany. Take it easy, Germans. Prior to this final rule, aliens with HIV infection were considered to have a communicable disease of public health significance and were thus inadmissible to the United States. Political blowjob. Well, HIV infection is a serious health condition. It is not a communicable disease that is a significant public health risk for introduction, transmission, or spread to the U.S. population through casual contact. Does you mean casual sex? Aliens will no longer be inadmissible into the U.S. based solely on the ground that they are infected with HIV. Well, they used to just happen to kill everybody they said was HIV positive, which they did based on a test, and then they let Luc Montagnier. Yes, in 2009, HIV became not a big deal. Really, it's not a big deal. Come on, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So we were kidding. When we said HIV equals death, we were kidding. No, I'm not frickin' kidding you. Because it's not real. Because the tests aren't real. Because the drugs will kill you. That's why. That's it. That's all. So we know that. And Andy Wakefield and Del Bigtree, and I respect both of them. I probably, respect both of them very much if I met and talked with them and they admitted to me that they understood certain things, but it was a movie and they couldn't question everything. And I'm so tired of that kind of political speak, but I'm sure I'm sure that that's what they mean, and they're just not allowed to say everything they know because they're hoping this somehow plays to Peoria or the people in the back seats in Santa Monica or Malibu or on the main line in Philadelphia. Well, nobody is going to see Vaxxed on the main line in Philadelphia unless they have a damaged kid or their sister drags them to it because she does, or she's worried about her nieces or nephews or something like that. So, all right, whatever. So I'm not trying to beat up on them for their good work. I'm trying to say it pisses me off because the CDC said that everybody was going to be infected and everybody was going to die, and Oprah said 1 out of 5 people is going to have AIDS by 1990. I guess after the poles melt and the Statue of Liberty is surfing in the bay, in New York's harbor. I don't think so. You know, there's a lot of stuff that people say when they happen to be scientists that comes out to be absolutely not frickin' true. And you know what they never have to do? Science means never having to say you're sorry. And I'm a little tired of that too. And I get a little tired of doctors covering each other's asses just because they want to be back in the club. You know what? Leave the club. It's not a good club to be in. Go become a naturopath. Go ahead. Go become a chiropractor. You do more good for people. Become a nutritionist, for Christ's sake. You'll do more good for people. Everybody, we have to do it from the top down. You can't change anything from the top down. Don't you understand? That's why it's called the top. It's based on all the stones on the bottom. You don't change anything from the top down. Thank you. Top down. It's a pyramid. You can't change anything from the top down. Don't try. In order to get to the top, you have to step on the faces of everybody who's holding up the goddamn top of the pyramid. So stop telling me about top-down change. You want to be changed, change yourself in your own life, live that way, etc. Okay, so, whatever. I'll see the movie, I'll support the movie. I like what they're doing, of course. But, why pretend you're not... Why pretend you're pro-vaccine if they're safe vaccines? Why even start that argument? Oh, you know what? I want good HIV tests. You know what? Fuck off. They've had 30-something years to come up with a good one, and they can't do it because it never existed. Why would I even say, I want good ones? No, I don't. I want them to stop lying. Oh, I want safe HIV. No, I don't. I want them to stop killing guys who stupidly jump through the HIV testing hoop. Oh, I want safe vaccines. No, I don't. I want them to stop killing children. I don't need any safe vaccines to do it. By the way, if you're hearing for the second hour, this is the Stream of Consciousness broadcast called the Liam Scheff Show. I'm Liam Scheff, author of Official Stories. You can read all of this stuff in shorter or longer form and more organized form and less cursy form in Official Stories. You can support the work that you hear here, Gesundheit, by putting $5 or $10 into the kitty at PayPal. Or if I get one of those other stupid things like Bitcoin or we're off the grid money, whatever. It's all fake money. But we need it. We need it. We need a lot of it to buy food at Trader Joe's. Pay rent. You know why vaccination sucks and it's wrong? Because the principle behind vaccination was wrong. Because back in the when was Louis Pasteur doing his dog brain experiments that I talk about in Official Stories? Cracking open dogs' heads, cutting open their spines, taking material from infected dead animals and shoving it into the brains of other animals. When was he doing that? 1800? Let's see. Late 17? Hold on. Let's see what the dictionary says. 1822 to 95, mid to late 1800s. 19th century. So guess what they understood about immunology then in the medical sciences? Oh, thank you, 0, nothing. Guess what they understood about immunology? Oh, thank you, 0, nothing. Guess what they understood about blood? Oh, thanks, 0, nothing. Nothing. We're using another 150, 170-year-old piece of our artifact of our misunderstanding to do medical research with the entire world. The same way that Isaac Newton didn't understand anything reasonable about electricity and certainly didn't include it in his thesis, his mathematical proof of gravity on planet Earth's surface or in the local solar system. So we that didn't exist then didn't know anything about immunology, blood science, or how we really have an immune system at all in the motherfucking early 1900s or 1800s. We didn't know anything. How complicated is that thought? Why are we doing a science based on stuff that people didn't understand in the 1800s? Why? Why do we think that injecting something into the blood, people didn't understand the principle of immunology. You signal all the cells that you need to be immune in your gut, in your intestine, in your abdomen. You don't do it in your blood. It's not just that's a mechanistic view of the world. You stuff some poison into your muscle and fat tissue and hope that your blood will figure out how to make a couple of Lincoln log, erector set, what it was called. We used to play with those things. It was a spoke and wheel system. It wasn't Lincoln logs. It wasn't the erector set. That was the metal version. It was really cool. It was a lot of fun. We had this toy when I was a kid. It was a spoke and wheel system. They had these wooden hubs that had a hole in the top, a hole in the bottom, and then it was like something like the size of a $50, maybe a little bit less, bigger than a quarter. And it was a piece of wood, and it was about a ½ inch thick. And all along the rim, the ridge of the width of the wheel on the side were holes. So you could build all kinds of things with it. And you'd have these plastic straw tubes, so you could just construct anything really quickly, much faster than an erector set, which was steel or metal, so probably some sort of toxic metal, and you had nuts and bolts. I mean, you had to screw the thing together. And in Lincoln logs, you could only build really upward because it would fall apart otherwise. Because it didn't have any locking pieces. It was just based on, pressure from above holding things down, or pressure, gravity holding things together. So you needed to be able to extend something. You had to be able to lock it in place. Oh, I can't remember the name of that goddamn toy. It wasn't Spirograph. That was drawing. It wasn't fractals. It was pinwheels. It was come on, out there. You know what I'm talking about. It came in I said it's not an erector set. I used to love. Anyway. So you're using this mechanical system to trick the blood into building some antibodies, but antibodies are non-specific. And you can be infected with a lot of things that produce antibodies. It doesn't mean you'll never get sick again. But they had this model, this idea that if you could just get infected with one thing, you'll never get infected with it again if your body made some antibodies to it. Well, it's not so. Not only are antibodies non-specific, but they're not necessarily going to stop you from a pathogen if you have holes in your gut. Well, guess what antibiotics do? Make holes in your gut. Guess what vaccinations do? Make holes in your gut, destroy your liver. Guess what the modern medical system does? Make holes in your gut, destroys your liver. You understand. We get it, Liam. Stop lecturing us. Okay, fine. Fine, I say fine. We'll graduate to other topics. But it's an interesting point, isn't it? That, well, all right, fine. Don't answer. But to me it is that the 19th century, the mid-1800s was the time that our blood science was invented. Does that make sense to anybody? What did we know? I mean, you could barely tell what was inside of a cell. Nobody understood the immune pathways leading from the gut, triggering the production of different kinds of CD4-3 cells, CD8 cells. Nobody understood this. People don't really understand it now. We're still not acting as though anybody understands that. So vaccination didn't work for a reason. It didn't work because it was never going to work. It was a huge fucking misunderstanding of the body, as though the body were some sort of mechanical system, like that toy. This name I can't remember. God, all right, going online. All right, 70s toy, construct. 70s toy construction spoke and hub. Come on, give me something. Give me something. Tinker Toy. Oh, you bastard. You bastard. Tinker Toy set is a toy construction set for children. How dare you? My uncles used to take it away from me. They would take it away and they would make these, because Tinker Toys were cool. Because it was a wheel system, you could actually make things that were that were kind of, you could make levers and you could make axles, anyway. And so you could make toys that would swing, and they would make these destruction things and like wallop each other with them. Bastards. Anyway, Tinker Toy. So they think your body's a Tinker Toy. That's the point. They think that your blood and body is a Tinker Toy, and that's how it works. Talk about a misunderstanding of an idea. It just ain't so. It's not how the body works. It's not how it works. Well, in the last half of the Tinker Toy, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. In the last half of the show, I did a lot of complaining about medical science, about pharmaceutical science. I praised emergency workers for saving lives, because they absolutely do, Sometimes they do cruel things like keeping people alive who really already died, and that's also true, but probably for the most part, they actually keep people alive who aren't ready to die yet. So I appreciate that. You can put that out there for me. I appreciate it. Sometimes nurses do. Doctors run around with their clipboards and beat up on each other because they're all very important, just like Scrubs showed us. You think that that's just a comedy? It's not. That was true. That's how I'm not talking about all the weird, well, maybe, all the weird sort of psychedelic mind trips that they were always going on in their imaginations. Maybe that's true too. And I'm not talking about the young doctors and love subplot, even though everybody's screwing in hospitals. I'm talking about, and they are, and the same way they do in the military. They're females, whatever. Take it as you like it. But I'm talking about the fact that doctors are very abusive to each other, that residency and medical school is a system of non-stop humiliating abuse. Non-stop humiliating abuse, learning to suck and spit, that's the game, and you know it. All right, let's look at the clock. We got the first segment about halfway or more in the bag. I was talking about outer space. I had come up with some interesting things to read to you, interesting to me, and because I'm the piper, I guess I can call the tune. Let's look. All kinds of stuffs. Now, I was talking about Isaac Newton and the fact that he was roundly disbelieved when he was coming up with his idea of gravity. Oh, you're crazy, Isaac. They said, you're crazy. We just don't believe you. We don't want to believe you. Okay. And you can look that up and you can find cartoons mocking him in that period. Where did that go? I had that open. Come on, give me a break. Where is that? Oh, I had it open to read. Oh, don't give me this. Come on, where did you go? I guess I'll just find it again. I was going to continue to read a little bit from chapter 9 on the Big Electric Bang, and then I'm going to head right into some articles on the modern problem that we call astronomy. All right, got it open. Can't you prepare before the shut up? It's my show, I'll do what I like. Page number 20, 40, 50. All righty then. So I was reading from She's So Heavy, Father Georges, The Real Reason We're Stuck with Gravity. I think I read that to you. Isaac Newton was born in the mid-17th century. But I've gotten ahead of myself and probably everyone else. Let's go back to the start of the problem wherein we find the solution. That's where I believe I stopped. No, I read this too. I don't know what makes the planet do that. Sir Isaac. Yeah, I started reading this. Official Stories, reading from chapter 9. I read from Immanuel Kant. That's right, of course. And here we are. Plug and play. You can't fault Isaac. And I'm reading about astronomy. And we're going to talk about astronomy a little bit. And you know there's no Big Bang. But let's talk about what there is. You can't fault Isaac for not knowing about the more powerful force. He lived in the era before electricity. There were no streetlights, no blenders, radios, TVs, power stations, transformers, or batteries, or cell phones, thank God. Talk about a harbinger of the apocalypse. Bloody cell phones. I don't think that's what Grandpa Watson intended. He was a spiritualist after all. Yes, my great, not that many, grandfather helped along with that telephone thing, but lost the money. He did. He sunk it into a shipping operation and was kicked out, lost the money. Isaac did not include electricity in his equations because it wasn't part of his world. It was a new phenomenon in human society to be able, at will, to motivate flowing electrons to do work. We are in a different age, and NASA still hasn't caught up. But some independent scientists have. They're called plasma physicists. The universe is filled with plasma. It's the fourth state of matter after solid, liquid, and gas, but it's the first by volume, comprising 99.9999999% of the universe. It's a sea of charged particles, carrying electric current in voltages ranging from so low they barely register to so high they burn at millions of degrees. It's a living thing. Plasma looks alive. It forms into thin cell walls in space, millions of light years across. It curls into spinning vortices, like fiery tornadoes. It glows warmly and forms cocoon-like enclosures. It beams and twists and exerts such a power of attraction that it scavenges all the material around it and superheats it, pinching it down into orbs. Which, by the way, as an aside to the book, is what happens when stars are formed. You can see stars like glass beads along a bracelet or along a necklace just forming out there in the big nebulae. And scientists say, well, that doesn't make any sense. We thought planets formed by accumulation of dust and socks under a bed. No, sorry, wrong, douchebags. You've seen plasma but don't realize it. Also dorks. The spiraling serpents of light we see in pictures from the Hubble telescope, and nerds, these are plasma. The glowing filaments emanating from, not that there's anything wrong with dorks, nerds, or geeks, it's that they're not paying attention to outer space, emanating from nebulae like Medusa's hair, plasma. And here on Earth, neon lights and the sun-bright lightning swords used in arc welding, and lightning itself, are plasmas, electrically charged particles in a gaseous state. Plasma acts differently depending on its density and level of charge. When the particles are few and dispersed, the plasma runs dark. Increasing the density makes it glow, as in neon. And tightly bunched, highly charged particles burst into sun-bright streamers, plasma in arc mode, like in lightning and the surface of the sun. The plasma physicists who study this most abundant form of matter have discovered that by placing it, and not gravity, at the center of astronomy, the secrets begin to unravel, and we can finally answer many of the big questions about outer space. But we knew it! Plasma currents have a name, Birkeland currents, for the astronomer and adventurer Christian Birkeland. Christian adventured to Norway. He told his peers that the neon lights in the sky, the aurora borealis, were an electrical phenomena. They are charged particles moving in the currents emanating from the sun exploding against our protective atmosphere, he said. Christian, you're crazy. The sun isn't shooting electrical rays at us. It's just hot gas, you loon, said the scientific mainstream, until Data's telescopes revealed that they were, in fact, ionized particles running into currents into our planet's poles, at which point they said, of course it's an electrical phenomenon coming from the sun. We always knew it was. At the same time, though, as an aside to the book, at the same time that they admitted this, they decided that plasma was a superconductor and therefore couldn't actually hold a field charge, hold a charge in space. It would just release it. Well, they were wrong, as Hannes Alfvén pointed out to them many times. Hannes Alfvén, Nobel Prize, late Nobel Prize. I mean, not after he was dead, but they almost waited till after he was dead, like I think they did with McClintock. Or maybe that was also late in her life. They like to give people who actually discover things awards after they're dead. Thank you. You're welcome. You understand what that means. They don't have to admit anything. Sorry, you're dead. Oh, you might have been right. A little, but we're not going to care. Catherine Wheels. Galaxies rotate in a particular way. The outermost stars stay in position with the center. The pinwheel or rotor shapes of galaxies are permanent features. The outer stars don't lag and fall off. They are attracted across the entire field. But if gravity were in charge, we'd have no galaxies. It is so weak a force that it couldn't hold such a shape, a wheel of stars, together. They'd fall off the ends, the middle would clump together, and the whole thing would lose integrity. It would end up like a bit of overcooked spaghetti wound around a fork, or really just a pile of couscous without much shape at all. Not that stars are couscous, but you get the idea. Galaxies need a much stronger force than gravity to keep them alive, and they have one, the electromagnetic force. Anthony Peratt, a plasma physicist at Los Alamos Labs, has modeled plasma particles moving down a column. Guess what shape they form in cross-section? No, not couscous, right, Catherine wheels, pinwheels exactly like galaxies. It's the natural shape of a plasma flow. Nature takes two repeated forms in all her expressions, the spiral and the Lichtenberg figure. The spiral, it's seen in all living things, hurricanes, tornadoes, whirlpools, and seashells, tree trunks, plant stalks, sunflowers, eyes, fingertips, and nipples. From the atomic matrix of crystal and DNA to the shape of galaxies, it is the universal signature and an electromagnetic event. The other form, the Lichtenberg figure, is another name for the shape of lightning. It also appears everywhere: our veins and arteries, the branches and roots of trees and plants, and of our lungs, the pattern of flowing water as it streams down river deltas. This is the fractal figure, the branch that branches, the small repeating in the large. The lightning pattern is also a spiral pattern. It branches outward as it turns. Get it? Lightning is also a spiral. Therefore, tornadoes are a kind of lightning. Think about it. Go look it up. Do tornadoes have electrical charges? Yes, they do. Electricity is everywhere in space, in the atmosphere, and inside of planets. Earth is shot through with telluric currents, electricity coursing through the seas and ground. They've been measured at up to 1 million amps in Australia and 1 billion deep in the planet. Life itself is powered by electricity. And I don't just mean they were measured in Australia, but I mean they're everywhere. Life itself is powered by electricity. We run on food that is turned into molecules from which we draw charged particles. The collagen that forms the majority of our tissue, skin, hair, and connective tissue, is a triple helix of protein, which some researchers, like Dr. Mei Wan Ho, have called a polyphasic liquid crystal, a perfect system for proton conduction. If our bodies are liquid crystals, we are sensing our world through subtle electrical signals received through our skin and organs. Lab researchers have noted that electrical impulses guide the formation of developing animals. For example, the faces of tadpoles show up as electrical pulses on the surface of their skin before any tissue formation takes place. Electricity is the guide. It is everywhere and may be everything. Mainstream astronomers will tell you that it's just random chance that the universe works this way, that in all things the infinitely small and large mirror each other, that life is formed of repeating motifs, always subtly and unsubtly rearranging into an endless variety of forms. It's clear to me that the universe is creative, alive, and thinking. After all, it forms itself into us and everything else that exists. If you think it's all a grand accident, there's a Richard Dawkins book on a shelf waiting for you. Let's test the theory. If outer space is made of charged plasma, it should be able to explain the outstanding mysteries of astronomy. And I will leave you there to go pick up the book to explore stars, lightning, quasars, nebulae, and the rest of the outer space coterie, as well as, of course, lightning on Earth and weather on Earth. Did I say tornadoes already? Well, it's in there. It's the Liam Scheff Show. We've overrun the break on Truth Frequency Radio, but we're here. You can support my work as I write my next book. I will be revisiting with great energy the outer space question, with more energy even than I gave it in Official Stories, in which it was just 1 chapter of 9. In my next book, American Heretic, I think it's 9 chapters of 1. No, that doesn't make sense. Maybe 9 chapters of 12. Anyway, it's a significant chunk of the book, and I go deeper and further, and we get into climate change and the CO2 only model versus the solar model. And I will revisit the AIDS story through the backstory of reporting on the AIDS story, which I don't know, I want to tell. Maybe you deserve to know what it's like to try to report on something that the science fakes don't want you to know about. And back to the front, in great defense of Del Bigtree and Andy Wakefield's movie, they're being hammered for being not anti-vaccine, for not being pro-vaccine. In other words, they're saying that they're not anti-vaccine, but the mainstream can't tell the difference. And I've been critical of them for not just saying, yeah, we're anti-vaccine, and here's why. Very simple, by the way. It takes much less energy than what they're trying to do, which is I'm for safe vaccines, which is a lie. I guarantee it's a lie. Neither of them are actually in favor of vaccination. Having reviewed the literature on vaccination, you can't help but to be anti-vaccine, because you realize what I was saying in the top of this hour. It was never a science. Let's continue that in this next segment of the show, and I've got some articles to read. Quick break. I'm just going to take a swig of water, and I'll be right back. And we're coming around the bend on the Liam Scheff Show. Last half hour of the show. Thank you for hanging out with all my cursing and dirty, filthy language. Thanks for being a pal, being a friend. You can find me on Facebook, the CIA Fact Book. Oh, I opened this one with a terrible curse. This is just a curse. This show is just wall-to-wall offensive cursing. Who would have thought that someone who can speak as well as me can also speak as poorly as I do? Blame my mother. Blame my father. Sleep well, my mother. Sleep well, my brother. Sleep well, my sister. But please don't sleep with my sister. Leave my sister out of it. You can support this work by, of course, buying official stories. We are reading from official stories on the outer space question. Now we're going to jump into some articles. Just going to bang through them. Going to leave that joke alone. Just going to leave whiz alone for a second. The Maunder minimum and climate change have historical records, aided current research. Instituto de Astrofísica de Canarias. I like it. La Laguna, Tenerife, España. Why am I reading as an Italian in that case? Solarstorms.org, Sun Like Stars. So here's an article talking about the Maunder minimum. Now I enjoyed this article, and the article postulates, it's short, you can find it again, the Maunder minimum and climate change have historical records, aided current research. This is one of many articles written by astronomers and astrophysicists saying that the Maunder minimum, that is when sunspots are at an all-time low, the weather on Earth seems to be affected by the lower energy of the sun. Well, it was also, and that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, if the sun is producing less energy, fewer holes punched in and out of the chromosphere, so that we can see down even beneath the photosphere. In other words, these are the layers of the sun, the colored chromosphere. Well, the photosphere is colored too. The photosphere beneath it, that is the absolute surface of the sun, the chromosphere, which is bunches and bunches of charged plasma. The holes in the sun, which seem to reveal the material beneath the sun being much, cooler. Yes, cooler. Cool beneath, not cold, but cooler beneath the surface of the sun than it is on the surface, or even above the surface, which would indicate that it's the outside, the exterior of the sun that's frankly being heated the most. In a discharge phenomena, or in an anode phenomena. Now the model of the sun is sort of up for grabs, and I talked about the anode model of the sun on the last show. That is, energy comes in through the poles and spins the sun and puts the charge through the body of the sun where it's that's a good question. See, I'm beginning to stumble because I don't have all the answers to this. The Alfvén's model is that it's a double toroid, and then the Ralph Jurgens model is it's an anode, like a homopolar motor, which is something that receives charge and then goes through a magnetic disc, a magnetized disc, and that spins. So if you put charge down a wire, right, going in one direction, and then you intersect it perpendicularly with a disc, the charge going through will spin the disc because the electric charge itself spins. If the disc is magnetized, it will spin. It will grab onto the magnetic field and spin. So it's called a homopolar. Don't make any jokes. It's called a homopolar. Just take it easy. Motor, and then there's the unipolar motor. I don't need your sophomoric humor. Although those were the kinds of jokes we made as sophomores too, so I guess that fits. So there's the model of the sun as an anode model that's driven by currents coming in at the poles. Well, the Thunderbolts group is doing some work to try to, called the Sapphire Project, to try to figure out what the sun actually is. Is it a homopolar motor? Is it a couple of toroids, which are another kind of plasma form like donuts? It seems harder to prove. Interesting thing about the sun, I think like Saturn and Jupiter, it spins much faster at the equator than it does at the poles, which would indicate that the energy is at the equator and not spinning at the poles, so the thing was being energized at the equator far more than at the poles, or at least being driven that way. That makes you think it's like a motor being driven that way, and the poles sort of lag behind, and the major energy is being distributed in the center. But that's got to be an oversimplification. Because why do the sunspots migrate from the top to the bottom, or the top to the center, and then, and top and bottom to center, and center to top and bottom, over a period of 22 years, or 20-something years? The so-called 11-year cycle, I think, is really a 20-something year cycle, because it's one up, one down. And if I'm not making any sense, I apologize. I'll come back and do another sun episode on all the possible electrical models of the sun. So why do I think it's electrical? Well, because it's hotter on the outside, which indicates the plasma energy is settling on the outside. The corona seems to spin, which is outside the sun, seems to spin faster than the sun itself, which indicates that the entire thing is in a Birkeland current. So the entire sun may be top and bottom held inside of a current flow coming from the larger galactic circuit that's spinning the corona, and then the outside of the sun is frankly heated by that rather than heated from even within. So, let's say there's still things to be worked out, but it's an electrical star. Why? Because it's much hotter on the outside. It's electrical on the outside. It's doing fusion on the outside, not deep in the inside, but on the outside where the plasma ropes are, because it's emitting electromagnetism all over the place, because it's constantly bursting its electromagnetic wiring in these mass coronal ejections. Mass coronal ejection will always try to reconnect. It always tries to form a loop that reconnects to its magnetic line of force, if you'll allow it to be put that way. And sometimes the material blows out and then hits us. Well, that's all ionized electromagnetic material. And that's not the kind of thing that you'd expect in a long fusion reaction somewhere in the dense center of this gas. Rather, it's seeming to happen just where you see it. In other words, the fire is where you see it, not where you don't. So the fire is on the surface, and it's collecting on the surface. Of course, it's much hotter in the corona, much hotter. Up to 10, maybe even 20, even more, millions of degrees as opposed to 6,000 degrees on the surface. So if the surface is being heated by the spinning corona, or as a result of the material spinning in the corona and settling, maybe settling is the wrong word, but directing its charge toward the gaseous material on the surface. If material is being scavenged into the sun as part of a larger circuit, pulling material from the galaxy, then it's continuing to replenish itself, and it can afford to spit out as much as it wants because it's continuing to feed itself. So there are many ideas about how an electric sun could work that are truly up for grabs. The other idea is that it's a nuclear bomb in space. Now, there are problems with that. I've talked about them before. The middle shouldn't spin faster than the poles. It shouldn't be a circle. There's no reason it should hold together in a near-perfect circle. It's a nuclear bomb, or it's a fusion bomb, or it's a fusion reaction. There's no explanation for why there should be an electromagnetic flow, a neutrino flow, a solar wind that speeds up and slows down. There's no reason that the nuclear bomb in space should be so, varying. I mean, we have a variable star. The sun varies in its output. Well, why would it go through repetitive cycles of 11 years of high and low? Why would it be cooler beneath the chromosphere, the visible part? Why would it be cool beneath the surface if it was a nuclear bomb underneath? And that's where the heat came from. There's so many problems with solar theory. How did it accumulate out of socks under your bed into a star without the electromagnetic Bennett pinch or Z pinch? Why did any of this happen? Well, you can't really explain it unless you invoke, mysteries abound, black holes at the center of the Milky Way, etc. You might as well let that go and just say it's an electromagnetic star. It seems to be heated from the outside. The corona is measurably hotter than the surface by millions of degrees, tens of millions of degrees. Oxygen, I believe, gets up to even 100 million degrees in some parts of the corona, but I suppose I'll have to go look that up. In other words, 6,000 degrees to 2, then 3, then 10 million degrees, doesn't make sense unless the heat is coming from the 10 million degree part. Wouldn't you agree that if you have a heat-giving stove in your house and it's in the kitchen and you're up in your bedroom, it's going to be bloody hotter in the kitchen than it is in your bedroom? If your bedroom is far away from the kitchen. And even if you have a vent bringing in warm air, you're still going to be much hotter standing next to either the vent or the stove that's producing the heat that's going through the vent, and hotter at the stove than at the vent. In other words, you're going to be hotter at the source of heat than at the distance from. So if the source of heat is the center of the sun, then it should be hotter on the surface, but it's hotter in the corona. Millions of degrees hotter, 10,000 miles away. So maybe the source of the heat is in that corona, and maybe the sun is an old, collected Z-pinch of material that's continually energized by the external Birkeland current, scavenging and bringing in material. And the solar wind is that thing produced by the entire sun, covered as it is in plasma, constantly producing material, radiation, and expelling it. And at the levels of heat that it achieves, and at the electrical charge that it achieves, doing fusion and bonding materials together, making heavy elements. I mean, that's what we see, But you have to remember that just as immunology started in a misunderstanding in the 1900s, in the 1800s, we were doing medicine based on the 1800s. You have to understand that. Nobody understood the body then. They're looking at the star the same way. I mean, it was Sir Arthur Eddington, and he's the guy, again, 1900 something, early 1900s. Early 1900s. He's the guy who said that the sun was a bonfire, a nuclear bonfire in space. And the only reason he said it was nuclear was people were hinting at working with atomic bombs then. But he said it was a fire in the sky that was heated internally. Well, it doesn't make sense. And everything about it doesn't make sense unless you just give in to the idea that it's electrical. And then everything makes sense. And you understand if it's electromagnetic, and if we're talking about plasma, then the bodies passing through it are constantly going to be whipping up a charge. So the earth passing through it is also going to be part of that motor. It's a material passing through essentially an electrical current being given out by the sun. It's going to be coming up with a charge of its own. Maybe not the strongest charge, but a charge. The same way that the moons of Jupiter and Saturn keep stirring up a charge because they're passing through the charged electromagnetic fields of their large star planets, Jupiter and Saturn, which are star planets. They're not just planets. They're gas giants, which are brown dwarf stars, given a little bit more energy, given a push. If you could push those outside of the reach of our star, those would burst into plasma light because they'd be able to scavenge more material and they would get hotter and brighter. Astronomers now admit that, 80% of the stars they see are brown dwarfs, low glow stars, totally capable of hosting life on their moons. So life ends up being totally ubiquitous. Life ends up being everywhere. And when we're kids and we look up at the stars and we think that we see life looking back at us, guess what? We're right. And it was the idiot, asshole, atheist scientist who said, you're wrong. We're a big anomaly. We're a big anomaly. There's no life out there. Don't believe it. We're alone. We're a bit of pollution, said Lawrence Cunty Krauss on the planet. Fuck you, Lawrence Krauss, by the way. Just truly, fuck off. Telling us that we're pollution on the surface of the planet because you hate yourself or you don't like yourself or whatever. You don't look at plasma physics or whatever your reasoning is. You're wrong. And science can never catch up to what people in many ways instinctively know, and it never will. There's nothing anybody can do about that. So I don't know what to tell you. It's Liam Scheff and the Liam Scheff Show. So I had all these articles, but the Maunder minimum set me off on what the sun is. I told you, it's a stream of consciousness. How do you solve a problem like Maria? You can't. NASA, Earth's magnetic poles are switching with catastrophic consequences for humanity. Well, it's possible. It's an Express article from the UK, so of course it's inflammatory. But at least they're admitting that the poles are shifting and the magnetic sphere is getting weaker. That means a lot of things. It means we don't necessarily need a CO2 is dangerous model to explain why the climate is changing. If the poles are shifting and the magnetic sphere, the magnetic envelope that we live in, I should say the magnetic silk purse that we live in, or burlap sack, if you like it that way, is getting weaker, then it should also make sense to you that we're going to be bombarded by cosmic rays, by solar rays. And shouldn't that have some effect on the planet? If we're constantly being bombarded and abused by coronal ejections and cosmic rays from the larger... if the sun is getting weaker, then the cosmos itself, the galaxy itself, is going to impinge further and further. If the sun is getting weaker and putting out less energy, then its larger heliosphere, its bubble around the solar system is going to be more penetrable. And then we're all going to get walloped. So that's probably happening. Shouldn't we be looking beyond just one little gas on Earth? It's like looking at it's like thinking that forming antibodies means you're immune. It doesn't necessarily mean that. And everybody knows that. You can have antibodies and get sick, and you cannot have antibodies and not get sick. So what are we talking about? Life's biology and immunology are far more complex than Louis Pasteur or Edward Jenner ever considered. You know, they had this very mechanistic tinker-toy model of the body. They didn't understand that just because you can make an antibody against something didn't mean you were really protected for life against it. It meant in some cases you were probably less likely to get something, but if you have no gut, if you're totally deficient in all nutrients, you're going to still get sick again. People have gotten chickenpox over and over again. People get shingles as adults. You don't think that's chickenpox? It's the same thing. It's chickenpox with a reduced immune system in adults. And it's very painful. And you get that among who? Drug users. People who've had a lot of drug use and have really destroyed their immune systems. Tends to be them, right? Tends to be people in Africa who are starving to death, don't have any clean water, food, selenium, glutathione, any mineral nutrients from the soil. Big surprise. You know, the mainstream didn't understand immunology, but they foisted vaccination on us as though they did. And they're using something from the 1800s to do medicine with. And they wonder why people are complaining. Now, the list of people complaining about vaccines is very long, and they happen to all be vaccine patients or the mothers and fathers of the dead. The mothers and fathers of dead children. But we don't want to listen to them because there's a lot of money to be made, and we don't like upsetting the apple cart and blah, blah, blah. Well, let's upset the apple cart. And that's about it. You know, for the rest of the show, I think I'll just be silent and let us all consider the way we... Oh, sorry. The IPCC may have outlived its usefulness. An interview with Judith Curry. Well, so Judith Curry is one of these people who stands up just to get shit on. She says that climate modeling may be inaccurate and there may be problems with it and so on and so forth. So you can read Judith Curry's work. And I don't know that she understands everything about the electric universe, but she does understand that there's a lot that's wrong with looking at one small factor in a system that is not only intensely complex, but is driven by solar energy, driven by electromagnetic energy. We have flux ropes going from the sun to us. We are every 8 seconds, the sun's according to the mainstream, the sun's magnetic shield and our magnetic shield couple for a second, and we're bombarded by solar irradiance, by strong stuff coming from the sun. We're bombarded by material, bombarded by electromagnetic material. You don't think that matters? They didn't measure that. They just said, oh, it gets a little warm or a little cool, and so it's not a big factor. Well, they're wrong. I mean, every 8 seconds... Let me look that up. Hold on. Let me get... It's good. Hold on. 8 seconds. Come on. Wasn't that a Luke... who's that guy? 8 seconds. Remember that guy from that show that I hated? Yeah. Anyway, didn't he make something about... it doesn't matter. Flux. Oh, that's it. Portal. Here, listen to this. Oh, come on. Give me a break. Magnetic portals connect Earth to Sun. Listen to this. This is NASA. 2008. During the time it takes you to read this article, something will happen high overhead that until recently many scientists didn't believe in. Oh, ho, ho, boo, hoo, hoo. Guess what? Fuck you, you're wrong. A magnetic portal will open, linking the Earth to the Sun 93 million miles away.
It's not 93 million miles away. It's 3,000 miles away, and it's 32 miles wide. Don't you know your flat Earth science?
Shut the fuck up. Tons of high-energy particles may flow through the opening before it closes again around the time you read the end of this page. It's called the Flux Transfer Event, or FTE, says space physicist David Siebeck of the Goddard, blah, blah, blah. 10 years ago, I was pretty sure they didn't exist, but now the evidence is incontrovertible. Well, why doesn't every scientist get a tattoo and put that on their face? 10 years ago, I was pretty sure they didn't exist, but now the evidence is incontrovertible. Indeed, today, Siebeck is telling an international assembly of space physicists, blah, 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 in Huntsville. Researchers have long known that the Earth and Sun must be connected, except that we don't count that in our climate models. Earth's magnetosphere, the magnetic bubble that surrounds our planet, is filled with particles from the sun that arrive via the solar wind and penetrate the planet's magnetic defenses. They enter by following magnetic field lines that can be traced from terra firma, that's Earth, all the way back to the sun's atmosphere. That's the corona. We're talking coronal mass ejections. We're talking about the regular solar fluid wind. It's not a wind, it's a stream coming out of the chromosphere and the corona. This is the incredibly strongly magnetized electromagnetic discharging part of the sun that is much hotter than the surface of the sun. There's a reason that we're saying that people in the electric universe thing are saying that the sun is heated on the outside, not from some nuclear bomb on the inside. This is a plasma sheath pinching down, spinning the corona faster. The corona spins faster than the surface. The central latitude of the sun, the equator, spins faster than the poles. Sounds like it's being turned from the outside in. We used to think the connection was permanent and that solar wind could trickle in to the near-Earth environment anytime the wind was active. We were wrong. I don't think a scientist has ever said that before. The connections are not steady at all. They are often brief, bursty, and very dynamic. On the day side of the Earth, the side closer to the sun, Earth's magnetic field presses against the sun's magnetic field. Approximately every 8 minutes, not 8 seconds, my apologies. And I can't remember the actor's name. The two fields briefly merge or reconnect, forming, in other words, there's much less interference between them. That's what they're saying. Forming a portal, a space through which particles can flow. The portal takes the form of a magnetic cylinder about as wide as Earth. Pause to let the meaning sink in. The European Space Agency's fleet of four cluster spacecraft and NASA's 5 Themis probes have flown through and surrounded these cylinders. Are there more than one of them? Are they coming in at the top and bottom, measuring their dimensions and sensing the particles that shoot through? They're real, says Siebeck. Now that cluster and Themis satellites have directed sample FTEs, which stands again for, I hate when they use fucking abbreviations, flux transfer events. Wrong word, flux transfer. Why don't they call it energetic transfer? That's why they use abbreviations, so you stop thinking about what it means. Bunch of fucking cunts. On the day side of Earth, blah, 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 magnetic field, sample, now the cluster and Themis directly sampled energetic transfers from the sun. Theorists can now use those measurements to simulate energetic transfers from the sun in their computers and predict how they might behave. Siebeck, the researcher, believes, and he has a first name, but they don't want to use it because we don't want to. He's, want us to think of him as a human being. Believes that this is happening twice as often as previously thought. I think there are two varieties of these transfers: active and passive. Active are magnetic cylinders that allow particles to flow through rather easily, and they are important conduits of energy for Earth's magnetosphere. We're being charged by the sun. Can they say it any more clearly? We're being charged by the sun. We are being charged by the sun. Every 8 minutes, the Earth is being walloped by electromagnetism. Why are we talking about carbon fucking dioxide? Passive energetic transfers are magnetic cylinders that offer more resistance. Their internal structure does not admit such an easy flow of particles and fields. Who knows? I mean, this is what he's saying in this article. I have to look at his research. So, there are many unanswered questions, blah, blah, blah. Why do the portals form every 8 minutes? What if they're wrong? What if it's all the time? What if it is every 8 minutes? How do the magnetic coils inside the cylinder twist and coil? It's not really correct to say that magnetic fields twist and coil. It's, they're not actual lines. It's a magnetic field. It pours, really. And magnetic fields form double layers and pinches. So we have to talk about what we mean when we talk about magnetic fields. We're doing some heavy thinking about this, blah, blah, blah. 2008, haven't heard much about it since. So I don't think his funding is going very well. Meanwhile, high above your head, a new portal is opening, connecting your planet to the sun. Dr. Tony Phillips is writing this, and he's one of the only guys that I know of at NASA, and he was pointed out to me. Thank you, Ben Davidson, and Suspicious Observers, pointed out by Ben Davidson in some of his work. So Dr. Tony Phillips, one of the only guys at NASA who hopefully will not fire after the purge of useless frickin' idiots over there. This is the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV, Truth Frequency Radio, coming up to the end of the show. No, there is no other show like it on the air because no one could do it. Just no one is this vulgar and also probably vaguely interesting at the same time. I hope you think so. If you do, you know what to do. It's Official Stories. You can have it for a song. I think it's about $10 right now due to a sale on Amazon, and it's $3 or $4. What is it right now? $3 or $4 on Kindle. Wow, what a steal! Man, I should buy that. Oh, I haven't. I'll buy it. Hold on. I'm looking it up. Hold on. Dude, $4. Come on. 108 reviews. Look Look at all those 5 stars. Oh, some 1-star reviews from psychopaths.
Yeah, I believed him on JFK, but not about HIV. You're wrong about HIV. HIV's real. I know because somebody I know died from AIDS drugs.
Okay, fuck off. Good night. Yeah. Next up, more of the same. More of the same and more that's different. I have a big announcement coming in 2 weeks. Big announcement coming in 2 weeks. It's my well-organized, well-displayed, repeatable, reproducible challenge to NASA, IPCC, and the NOAA or NOAA on climate change. I am presenting on anthropogenic, why do they even, man-made climate change? Why do they do that? I have a challenge so clear, so easy to understand, that no one will be left in the dark. Everyone will be able to understand it. No one will be confused. You will not be confused for a moment, and you will understand that nothing NASA says should any longer be trusted. And all of their funding should be paid, not only ended, but paid back for their giant boners, their giant LIGO, and the European Hadron Collider. Yes, that was my forehead. The European Hadron Collider boondoggle. I will have that coming soon. I look forward to your participation in doing that research. I will be presenting the opening volley for that research, and I hope that many of you will come along. I am opening this to the public to do research on this particular plank of dismantling the entire fiction that meteorology, that climate change, that NASA is based on, and I know that you can join me there. See you very soon. Stay tuned to all the great programming. Thanks for hanging out on this curse-filled edition of the Liam Scheff Show. Time to take the soap and wash somebody's mouth out with it. You can take the cotton out of your ears. Thanks for joining. And again, Official Stories on Amazon. Throw a couple dollars into the kitty at PayPal, linked in the links on the show and on my webpage on Facebook and YouTube. Look for new YouTube videos regularly. See you soon.